The open budget hearing will come to order. We're actually doing our open budget hearing this evening to be followed by the regular school committee meeting. As is our tradition, if you would please join me in pledging allegiance to our flag and our country. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we have an abbreviated budget presentation that we've asked Dr. Pavlicek to run through. The much more detailed presentations that we gave to the warrant committee and to the parent-teacher organization briefing are up on the website.
Mary's going to start.
Good evening. We're going to do, as Chairman Walker said, an abbreviated presentation of the Milton Public School FY16 budget proposal. And for those of you who have attended one of our sessions or seen this presentation, please bear with us. But for those who haven't been with us, we developed the budget working with the leadership team of principals, department heads, and every Tuesday morning, the Glenn Pavlicek, Janet Chan, and I meet with Finance Subcommittee Chairman Mary Kelly, Mike Zulis, and Leroy Walker. And we work collaboratively to develop this budget. During the budget season, during November, December, really starting in December and January, we communicate. I believe the submission had to be in early December to the warrant committee?
Mid-December, yeah.
We submit our budget to the warrant committee, and they have a school committee subcommittee. We present to them. They use this space right here, or we go to town hall. Then they forward questions. They go through every line of our budget. They work collaboratively with us, along with all the departments in town. We present our budget, and we meet with the warrant committee, who are their charge, volunteers, their charge is to propose a balanced budget to town meeting. And so we're going to go over our FY16 budget with you tonight. To put this in context,
Left-hand one, right-hand one.
I'll let you do it. 2 years ago, the school committee said to the leadership team, what are the needs of the district? And based on the student data, what are the initiatives to move the district ahead? And in this very space, we met with 26 principals, assistant principals, curriculum directors, and we brainstormed. We brainstormed the elimination of fees, the arts, and based on our student data, we identified 2 years ago emphasizing early literacy. We looked at our student data, our MCAS scores at the end of grade 3, and since we've identified that goal, you will see in national literature, in your local newspapers, you'll see on all educational journals that really the goal of all children reading at grade level at the end of grade 3 is an indicator of success. And so based on our MCAS data, we knew we had work to do in reaching that goal. We also identified from the MCAS data that we had proficiency gaps in, for some of our subgroups, special education, African American blacks, and children whose families have identified as low income. So we identified at different levels in the district those subgroups based on their MCAS data. And then based on our data, we knew that we had issues at some of our levels in our science MCAS scores. So for the last 2 years, last year, again, based on the data, we knew we had identified the correct areas, and we were making some advancements, understanding that these are not initiatives that could be corrected in a year, but we're closely following the data and checking and monitoring the data and reporting out at these school committee meetings. So we want to, again, our proposal for next year, the advancement budget, just quickly detail for you what we're, and if you look at the larger presentation, you'll see what the purchases were, the budget items in the last 2 years. And again, we work with Finance Subcommittee, and our goal is what are the positions, what are the personnel, what are the curriculum, and what are the supports that we need to drive the system and make improvements in those advancement areas. So last year, the school committee and the leadership team identified, and you see all the national research about preschool, and the dollars that are put into preschool, what an impact it makes to identify students who aren't in a formal preschool and to give them the instruction. So we piloted this year, and we're looking to expand that pilot next year. So one is to expand the part-time person to a full-time person for our district-wide preschool, $30,000. That's a personnel request under the Early Literacy Initiative. In the instructional supports, very briefly, would be $5,000 for additional materials. That wouldn't be in our regular budget. That's why we're asking for these items under the advancement budget. Again, at the elementary level, we're identifying, and again, you understand the research about longer school days, longer school years, that implement Saturday program for rising third graders next year. We've identified that as the divide at third grade exists, then it gets wider and wider. So we see our internal assessments at 1 and 2, but then at grade 3, when children, they learn to read at grades 1 and 2, then they read to learn at 3, if we can give them supports in the summer. $50,000 in additional professional development around early literacy and Readers Writers Workshop, really to finish that initiative with all of our teachers, and $20,000 to complete the purchase of leveled readers. Elementary parents understand how we've put the Reader Writers Workshop in our elementary schools, and this is really to finish the purchase of the materials. So in the early literacy, those are our advancement requests for next year.
Sorry.
Just went 2.
So for closing the proficiency gaps, our budget request for next year for new positions would be an interim high school reading specialist who will provide targeted assistance for students identified as at risk by class performance, internal assessments, and/or MCAS. We have another interim, request for an interim reading specialist at the elementary level for grades 4 and 5. And these positions are referred to as interim positions because these are students who have not had the benefit of the reading specialists who were put into place in grades 1, 2, and 3 from our previous advancement budget initiatives. For instructional support, we have 3 programs. The budget request is to continue these programs which have proven to be very successful. Students are being monitored. We have data to support the continuation of these programs. We have the calculus project, $25,000 is the request for that project. This would continue targeted summer pre-teaching sessions for our grade 7 students to achieve the honors math track through calculus. We have the Pierce Academy, again, an established program. The request is for $20,000 to, again, continue the targeted extended day instruction for students who are identified as at risk. And then we also have the Successful High School Bridge Program, and we are requesting $10,000, again, for targeted summer instruction to ensure their success as they move to grade 9. Additionally, for instructional support, we are requesting $20,000 for elementary extended day or extended year programs. Again, targeted instruction. This is all based on data analysis. Each school has a program in place for extended day or extended school year. We're looking for $20,000 for assessment software for the middle school and high school. looking at two programs right now, either the Edwin Teaching and Learning, that is, has been developed by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and we're also looking at the Galileo assessment system. $10,000 for a summer professional development institute, a variety of offerings to support teachers in closing the proficiency gap, and then $8,000 for a new writing program at the middle school. Again, these are all items that have been identified through data analysis and leadership teamwork, as noted by Superintendent Gormley.
In the Advancing Science and STEM program area, we have requesting one new 0.8 full-time equivalent position, a middle school STEM technology teacher. This is to reorganize elective offerings and so that all students will be able to take advantage of either STEM electives or what we call iSTEM electives, which are intensive studies in STEM, which are more advanced electives. So it's a 0.8 teacher to allow us to offer more at the middle school in terms of science electives. Also, we have in the support category $25,000 in additional materials, such as the Project Lead the Way curriculum, which will be used in the iSTEM courses. We also need to get some more equipment for the expansion of the STEM program into grade 4. That's the $10,000 for text, equipment, and supplies. We've been rolling up the STEM program through the English Innovation Pathway, and we now want to expand it up one more year, so that'll take us into grade 4, and $35,000 to purchase elementary science materials for K1 and 2. We have purchased, this is not STEM, this is science, the regular science curriculum that all students have. We had new science materials in the upper grades, but we hadn't added new science materials in the K1 and 2 realm. At the high school, we need to update some of our biotech equipment. We have a great biotech lab downstairs, and we've been keeping up all these years, originally donated through the Milton Foundation for Education, but we have to update some of the equipment, and it's hard to think of it as now being close to 10 years old, but it is. And so we need to update some of the equipment in that lab, and we also need to introduce more digital equipment. Currently, there's a lot of analog equipment still in our science classes, and that is older technology. The other two pieces are professional development, again, a summer professional development institute on science and STEM, and in-year professional development for the teachers in the use of the elementary, middle, and high science materials. So with the new materials that you purchase, you have to have training as well for the teachers to make optimal use of them. So that's our advancement budget request for fiscal 16. And this is the chart that, again, is online. We've seen it before in our previous presentations. Grand totals amount to $591,000. Much of this, $403,000 of it, is in fact what we're referring to as one-time funds. These are expenditures that will happen for fiscal 16 but would not recur beyond that. They're one-time expenditures of money. That is important more for the warrant committee, who are trying to parcel out what parts of budget can be spent through their supply of one-time funds, notably free cash, as opposed to having to spend recurring appropriations on them. So in quick summary, our budget request is for $41,094,500, an increase of $1.7 million over last year, a 4.4% increase. Again, in our previous presentations and the ones you'll find online, there's a breakdown of exactly what makes up this number, how much of it is salaries, how much of it is different pieces. And this is a breakdown, again, for the warrant committee, that we have an increase, if you only look at the recurring funds, it's about, again, 4.5%. Once you back out some of the one-time funds from this year's budget and from our proposal for next year. After that proposal, the warrant committee, of course, is in the process of trying to put together a town budget has made some preliminary estimates on revenue, has looked at the requests from all the town departments, and as we've talked about over the last few meetings, has asked us to come up
Ears in the
with
back.
a scenario
Cable
in
guys.
which we would have a $500,000 cut from our request, and they've asked us to say what we would do in that scenario. So let me, we'll go take a quick walk through that one as well.
And so these budget reductions, the leadership team is charged with coming up with reductions. We meet as a group, we look at the entire district, we look at administrative support, teaching, text materials and supplies. We work with the finance subcommittee, and we make a proposal to the warrant committee. Again, they said that there would have to be reductions to $500,000 of our existing budget. What we've done is gone out to, canceled several PTO sessions due to the snow. We had a PTO presentation. We've gone out to several groups. And now tonight, after this, finish this presentation, we'll hear from parents and citizens again. And the school committee, what's happened over the past years, will work with us. Again, are these the recommended cuts and reductions we're going to make, or are we going to make any changes based on feedback we get from parents and citizens? So district-wide, one of the recommended reductions is a special education secretary. There are 2 administrative assistants in that office. One of the support staff would be eliminated. The second recommended cut would be a $27,000 to special ed transportation. Dr. Pavlicek, charting special education transportation over the past years, looking at the anticipated enrollment next year, is recommending that we can make that reduction. Dr. Pavlicek has also put the system on a copier replacement program, and we're putting up a $5,000 delay in the machine replacement system-wide. The next reduction is in professional development. Again, very different from the advancement professional development, and this would eliminate some of the non-advancement professional development initiatives that we had planned for this coming summer and next school year. And the next would be a $20,000 recommended elimination of text materials and supplies district-wide. And again, that all of those reductions would directly impact the Milton Public Schools, but the charge from the warrant committee is that we had to make recommended reductions to the number of $500,000. We then looked at the elementary level, and again, I think it's important to explain that we do this as a team. We don't tell the high school team to come back and report out. I've said we do this collaboratively. We look at, you could have the high school principal could give this presentation. The first recommended reduction is going to be reduce grades 4 and 5 art from 45 minutes to 30 minutes. We've worked over the years to increase the art. Anyone who's been in those elementary classrooms or remembers their own art experience, elementary, middle, and high, knows that a 30-minute period is really difficult to set up an art project and complete an art project in the 4th and 5th grade. But we would bring back those classes to 30 minutes each. We would reduce kindergarten art and music to every other week. We said we have over 300 parents and guardians enrolling in full-day kindergarten. At the elementary level, children have physical education once a week, library every other week, art, music, and this would be a reduction at the elementary level, at the kindergarten level, to rotate back and forth. Right now, kindergarten children have art and music every week. The next recommended cut and reduction, we have moved back over the years. To begin with, 4th and 5th grade students had chorus and music. We then creeped back and we were able to have chorus and music at the 5th grade. If you had the fine arts director here, Dr. Noreen Diamond Burdette, she'd tell you they're two different music classes. We're proposing to eliminate grade 5 chorus. If we looked at all of the art and music teachers district-wide, the number of courses, classes that they would be teaching next year, and the partial cuts and those positions would total the elimination of 2 teachers in the art and music area, which would total $90,000. The next proposed cut and reduction is for a .5 preschool coordinator. When we built our budget, our preschool has grown from 1 class that was housed at Milton High School 10, 12 years ago to 4 classes. Anyone who's been at the Collycott-Cunningham understands the thriving preschool, and it's under the direction of the Collycott principal and the SPED director, the pupil personnel director. What we were saying with the initiative of the district-wide preschool, the preschool program at the high school, and our integrated preschool at Collycott, it was really demanding someone to oversee all those programs. But again, we would defer that .5 position, and that would be another cut, a reduction to our budget. And the final elementary recommended reduction and cut would be one of the 2 teachers in the STEP class at the Glover School. That class has 2 certified teachers in it and paraprofessionals, and the recommended cut was to eliminate one of the 2 teachers in the STEP program. So those were the recommended cuts, reductions at the elementary level, again, working as a team towards that, what was going to be the impact of the $500,000 reduction.
So the proposed reductions at the middle school level, first would be to eliminate 1 history teacher, and this would impact the team model that has been so effective at the middle school. While students would still have the history classes, the history teacher would not be part of each of the teams and would be working sort of outside of the team. The model now allows for collaboration among all of the teachers who work with the individual middle schoolers on the particular assigned team, and this would be a change and would really not allow that middle school concept. There is also a proposal to reduce by .2 an art teacher, a music teacher, and the computer teacher. This would reduce offerings in each of these subject areas and would provide less choice for students, and it would also increase class size in other electives. And the last reduction at the middle school level would be replacing 1 assistant principal with a dean, and the dean would take over. Thank you. The dean would have many of the responsibilities of an assistant principal. However, there would be some duties that would be placed on the principal and the 1 assistant principal, and one of those would be supervision and evaluation. The dean would focus on behavioral and academics, but there are many responsibilities that the assistant principal takes on that would no longer be the case, and those responsibilities would lie with, again, the principal and existing assistant principal. So the history teacher, the reduction would be $57,000. The art, music, and computer teachers would be $27,000, and replacing the assistant principal with a dean would be a reduction of $40,000.
At the high school level, we would lose 1 teacher in the world language department. This would eliminate the non-immersion French courses at the high school, so students coming in to the high school and opting a new language would choose between Spanish and Latin. They wouldn't have the opportunity of taking French. Because that will force students into Latin and Spanish, those classes would grow. It may have some effect on the AP offerings in those subjects, as if those courses are small, we'll have to see how that works. They might have, again, AP class combined with a level 6 course or something like that, where they may have to restructure some of the world language classes at that level. And again, the other reductions are a .2 reduction, so basically one class each of art, music, business technology, family and consumer studies. Again, the reduction in elective courses, reducing the scope of elective offerings available at the high school, and you would see increases in the elective size. What exactly this would be depends a lot on student choice at the high school. And like the other schools, these electives are choice-driven. They have a menu of classes to choose from, and the ones basically that have enough demand are the ones that get offered. So it's at this point, it's not clear which of those individual courses they would be. It would have a lot to do with the elective choosing that's actually going on right now for next year. In total, you're looking at a loss of 7.9 equivalent positions to reduce by $500,000. One note on this, again, this is what we've been asked to produce for the warrant committee. They've suggested $500,000 as the target we should start with. Again, they're being very conservative in their estimates of revenue and so forth. You may, by reading the papers, have heard the governor has released his initial budget proposal this afternoon. It's now just been published. We've got some of the details on it. The good news is that between, he's proposing a $77,000 increase for Milton in Chapter 70 aid. We would get about $20,000 increase in charter tuition reimbursement. So there's about $100,000 in education aid if his proposal were to carry for Milton. And again, this is step one. We have the governor, then we'll have the House, then we'll have the Senate, then we'll have conference committee. So it's got a ways to go yet. Unrestricted aid for the town is also up by $100,000, unrestricted local aid. And the estimated charges to the town are actually down by $50,000, primarily due to a big dip in retired teachers' health insurance. So were the governor's proposal to carry forward as proposed, it would mean an additional $250,000 in local aid to Milton. As I say, don't spend it yet, but it is something that it's the first volley into the local aid picture. So we will have to see how this plays out as we go forward. But it's certainly good news in the sense that the number is positive and not negative. And so it will start on the track going forward that will eventually end up with a final proposal for town meeting at the first week of May. But it is initially where we are at the moment. But in the meantime, we are still working on the warrant committee's request of what would be the impact of a $500,000 reduction, because it's these kind of impact statements that they're going to use should more money become available to decide from the various departments where to push some of it back. So that is where we are on our budget presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the purpose of these public presentations is to get feedback. As you heard the superintendent and Dr. Pavlicek allude to, over the last 3 weeks, we've been making a number of these presentations. On February 24th, we made a presentation to the PTO organizations and received quite a bit of feedback there. On February 25th, we met with the warrant committee. They also had some feedback on the proposed reductions. And the purpose of this open budget hearing is to get feedback as well. So is there anyone who would like to speak to
I don't know if
fiscal
that's-
16 budget?
I don't know if those individuals are interested now or citizen speak.
So just to be clear, this is the open budget hearing. Right after this, we will open our regular school committee meeting for which we have citizen speak.
Somebody turn the
So
lights on.
if you have
Turn the lights on.
budget comments, you could speak now, or you could wait until citizens speak. So I have J.P. Plunkett, Anna Rashran, Grace Marinici and
Marinelli.
Marinelli, and
Now a citizen speak.
I'm going to be super brief. I'd rather go now.
okay, come on up.
Come to the table.
Yeah,
Microphone.
right there. Just, JP, if you give your name and address.
Pt.1, 1 Ruggles Lane. I first quickly want to thank everybody here for the very fair and thorough English versus French presentation. Was it last? I can't even keep track of time. Whenever it was, a week or so ago. But wonderful. Very, very pleased and grateful for how fair it was, and thorough and well done, professionally done. So kudos to everybody. I'm reading this from my phone because my wife, who couldn't be here tonight, actually wrote this. So I agree with everything she's saying, but that's why I'm actually reading it. So
It's always a good practice to say that on television.
And before you begin to read it, may I say something?
sure.
Appropriate or not appropriate, I want to thank you for your comments that night. And so Mr. and Mrs. Plunkett put themselves forward as parents that any parent in the audience could call and contact about the English program and the STEM program in first grade. So I wanted to tell you how much we appreciated that. And we also realized that in past years, we had parents part of the panel to Mr. Plunkett's and Mrs. Plunkett's help. We worked really hard on that presentation. I'll convey to the 15 administrators your appreciation, but next year we will definitely have parents take questions from the audience and have them give their perspective.
I think they would just add to what was already
Thank you.
a great event. So
Thank you.
appreciate it. Likewise. So good evening, school committee members. My name is J.P. Plunkett, and I am the parent of a kindergartner and a third grader in the English program at Glover. I would like to express my concern over the proposed budget cut of one of the step teachers at Glover. I'm baffled, as are many other parents, as to how this is even being considered. The program was just moved to Glover 7 or so months ago, and now there's an attempt to reorganize it. Please consider the negative impact this decision will have on the step students who are already experiencing a shakeup of their classroom setting in the fall when they move buildings. Another factor to consider is the current makeup of Glover and the lack of equitable classrooms in English. Glover houses a co-taught program, which our son is in, the STEP program, and an English program that has huge disparities in students' gender, economic backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, and learning abilities. How is losing a much-needed teaching staff member going to help this student population at Glover close our achievement gap? Thank you for your time and for your serious consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Anna?
Yes, hi there. I feel I should perhaps just say ditto. Hi there, my name's Anna Ostrin and I'm a mother of 2 boys at the Glover School.
If you just take the microphone to you, please.
Sure,
Thank you.
is that better? Yeah?
Actually, you know what? They're asking if you could move to the seat over here. Sorry.
Sorry, I haven't done this before.
There's the other microphone.
This one.
There.
Testing. As I said, I'm a mother of 2 students at the Glover School. My son, Harrison Barker, is in the 2nd grade English program, Mrs. Turner's class. And my younger son, Archie, is in kindergarten, where we're presently making the decisions about 1st grade selection. My husband, myself, and other parents, as you know, are very concerned about the proposed budget cut of a step teacher at Glover School. Mrs. Turner's 2nd grade English class has 2 step kids in the classroom, with the total number of students until recently totaling 25. With many of the other kids in special ed programs in that classroom, and my son Harrison Barker is one of them, he's on an IEP, it is vital that the appropriate educational support is present. Cutting a special ed teacher will greatly affect this for all the kids. Presently, the STEP students in this classroom are keeping pace so well that one of the STEP educators can provide much needed math and English support to that classroom. If you take away one of these educators, we fear that all the kids in this English classroom will suffer along with the STEP students school-wide. Additionally, we ask that you take into consideration the STEP students whilst looking at the cap numbers within the classroom settings. The students, at least in my son's class, are present every day, along with their aides, and thus should not be ostracised from the class numbers. I've been an advocate of the English programme until this year, where I felt that parents' concerns about the class numbers and structures have not been taken seriously until recently. We wish to know how these concerns will be dealt with before the new school year occurs, especially for Mrs. Turner's current class. Until my husband and I feel that these cuts and concerns are taken seriously, it is perhaps sad to say that we'll be putting our younger son forward for the French programme. We just don't feel that we can be advocates this year of the current second grade class structure and how things have been dealt with. So I hope that you can take our concerns seriously and we see some changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Grace? If you would, just give your name and address.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Please, I'm nervous. My name's Grace Marinelli, and I live at 154 Cabot Street in Milton. I am a co-president of FAME for the Milton Public Schools, which is Friends and Advocates of Music Education. And I am the representative to speak tonight. And we, first of all, would like to thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak. And we, as FAME, realize that it's a very difficult thing to come up with these budget cuts and what you have to choose and the decisions you have to make. Once it was very eloquently explained to me that the number one priority is the students. And unfortunately, with this set of cuts, the music students are getting hurt across the board. Moving kindergarten to every other week disrupts the basic framework of music education. I have been in the classroom at Collycott, Cunningham, and Glover. Unfortunately, I haven't been at Tucker yet. I've seen what the kindergarten students do. They don't just sing and dance. They learn tempo, rhythm, beats, and yes, they are learning to read music. To move this class to every other week would disrupt that and disrupt the building blocks of music education in the future, where they go from there. And also disrupts the curriculum framework for music education set forth by the school. We're also cut, so we're cut in the elementary. We're also getting cut with a 5th grade chorus. If anybody's gone to the Pierce concerts and seen the 6th grade chorus, they're spectacular. And the basis of that starts in elementary school with 5th grade. That's where they learn to get along and sing together, and we'd hate to lose that. We're confused and a little concerned about the .2 middle school teacher and .2 high school teacher. We don't understand what it means. Will we lose a class? Will we lose classes? Will we lose half a teacher? Will we lose a job? Music education is part of a well-rounded education. And a well-rounded education is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Grace.
Kathy?
Good evening, committee members. I didn't come tonight intending to speak, but I felt I wanted to once I got here. My family lives on Churchill's Lane in Milton. I have 2 sons, an 11th grader and a 5th grader at Cunningham, the 5th grader, and both of them are involved in music education. And I would mirror what Grace has said and so eloquently, but my experience is more anecdotal. But my 11th grader, music has been pivotal to not only his academic development, but his social acclimation at each step up. He was in band at Glover. When he went to Pierce, he knew those people, and they were his social group. When he came to the high school, and on his own came home with the permission slip for marching band at the end of 8th grade, and we couldn't have been more surprised. But in band camp, where he met other students who were freshmen, incoming freshmen like him, but seniors as well, he felt like he owned the place by the first day of school because he'd spent so much time here and he had upper class friends. The kids in the music program mentor each other. They recognize how everyone can do music. A child with an IEP, a child with a learning disability, a physical disability, and then the kids who are going to be superstars down the road and may make this their profession. Everyone can enjoy and experience music at some level. And our program, as it is, provides children with the opportunity to do ensemble work and experience it together, and some to really excel on an individual basis through things like the SEMSBA and the districts. The Great East, is the culmination of the music year in Pierce, and it's the work that all those kids put in the choruses and the band and the strings, the things that take place out of school that these children spend their time on. Not everyone is going to be the quarterback. Not everyone is going to be a fantastic athlete or an honor student, but these groups are inclusive by their very nature, but also at the same time provide opportunities for children to excel at what they do. And I think it's part of keeping kids engaged in school. It's part of keeping them coming to this place. And the ensemble work is the payoff for those boring lessons that you do around the edges, and being with your friends, and recognizing and applauding each other's talents. If you've ever sat in the stands at a football game, which I know you have, and heard the reaction to the pep band and to the marching band, it's infectious in a good way. And these are lifelong skills. These are inculcating our children into the cultural canon globally. They learn classical music. They learn American jazz and swing. And they become well-rounded people, and they can carry this forward their whole lives. And I think the repetition at an early age in grade school through the weekly music classes, the recorder, as basic as that seems, drills this into them and gives them something to carry forward for their whole lives. And I know you are faced with difficult weighing of priorities, but I hope you will consider not going forward with the music cuts as proposed. Thank you.
So in closing, I would say that we do appreciate this feedback. We do take it seriously. As I said, we began this process of public presentations about 3 weeks ago. I think it's fair to say we have received a considerable amount of feedback on the art and music cuts. We've received a considerable amount of feedback on the elimination of the step teacher recommendation. We also received some feedback on the change of the assistant principal to dean, and we've received a fair amount of feedback as well on the AP recommendation at the high school. So the process from here, we've asked the superintendent to take all of this feedback into account and to come back at our March 18th meeting and provide us with some recommendations, either to move forward or to make changes in those recommendations. So we expect that discussion to occur on the 18th. Margaret? Can I ask a question? Sure.
My name is Margaret Eberhardt. I live at 18 Stanton Road in Milton. So this is my question. So you proposed an advancement budget that's $500,000, is that correct? Okay. And the cuts that you're proposing are in the same amount. So I'm not asking you to answer this, I'm just putting this out there to think about. So I understand the need for advancement, that the achievement gaps, and no one supports STEM and science more than I do. But what I'm taking away from this presentation is that you're cutting current programs to make advancement programs, right? Without really understanding the impact that those cuts are going to have on achievement and advancement. So it's apples and apples or oranges. I'm a little confused. It's the same amount of money to make advancement, but cutting current programs, teams at the middle school, a language teacher at the high school, art and music at the elementary school. Like, those are important overall whole child educational purposes. So I understand, like, you like to advance things and move your system forward. I'm all for that, but at the expense of current teachers, current programs, and things that are valuable now, I have a question about that. And I'd like to have some feedback in the future about that trade-off. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
Can I
So-
add art to that list?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we will close the open budget hearing and move to our regular school committee meeting. On tonight's agenda, a few changes. Under Chairman's report, I'd like to add fiscal 16 budget update. Some of that you've heard already, but I have a few more things to say about that. We're going to move health and wellness up to report out right after the chairman's report, and I'm going to add an executive session item related to ASME collective bargaining strategy. Ms. Kelly?
Would there be a way of doing the health and wellness right after this Cunningham Site Council?
Absolutely.
I know it sort of would interrupt the superintendent's report, but if there are members who are involved with that, it might just make it easier on them.
Sure.
Is that okay? Sorry.
I didn't tell her to say that, but Mr. Guarino is there, so if we could, that would be great.
Okay. I think we've taken care of citizen speak, so superintendent's report.
I'd like to, first, would you like me to respond to citizen speak or call up the Cunningham first?
Let's do the response to citizen speak.
At the school committee, the last school committee meeting, two Glover parents from the Glover second grade, Miss Kristen Brennick and Mr. Christopher Heavey, spoke to the integration of the stepchildren students into the second grade, questioning the level of challenge and support. They were very articulate in voicing their concerns. And so I want to read a statement that I've put in the school committee packets, my follow-up to their comments and to communications, conversations, and meetings I've had with the parents from that classroom. I met with Glover second grade parent, Miss Christine Brennick, Milton's Director of Pupil Personnel, Karen Clasby, and Principal Sheila Cuxtis on Thursday, February 20th, to discuss the issues that Ms. Brennick had raised. First, I wanted the parents and watching and reading about this meeting to know that it is our regular practice of analyzing achievement in all of our elementary classrooms across the district. Over the years, we've developed an assessment and analysis protocol in this district that works. As part of this protocol, I personally meet at the end of each quarter with the principals, Miss Assistant Superintendent Sheehan and I, and previously Assistant Superintendent Phelan and I, meet with the principals in each of the schools and the coordinators, and we go over the internal language arts and math assessments. We actually analyze the assessments down to individual students. These assessments, given at regular intervals through the school year, provide the classroom teachers and the school personnel with information needed to effectively meet the needs of all learners. It also ensures that students are on track with grade-level assessments. We look at both the achievement and growth for every student, as I just said. Having met with the Glover team at the end of both the first and second quarter, I am confident that the classrooms at the Glover, particularly this classroom in question, are showing similar growth and achievement compared to other classrooms across the district. We will continue to use these internal assessments to monitor student progress and needs in the classroom in every one of our classrooms across the district. We do this at the elementary level, and we do it in a different format at the middle and high school, but again, looking at all the assessments. At these quarterly meetings with coordinators and principals in each school, we use teacher input in these assessments to determine how to best deploy the existing personnel, our reading teachers, and other support staff within the district. So when we're looking at the internal assessments at the end of each quarter, I'll give you an example. We use our existing reading teachers that we have hired through the advancement initiative, and often the internal groups in grades 1 and 2, based on the internal assessments, the students who are in these support groups are changed. Again, we look every quarter at the student data and we redeploy our existing personnel. It is our regular practice to examine the best ways to utilize our staff to ensure that we both effectively and efficiently meeting the needs of all of our students. We have been able to utilize one of the STEP teachers at the Glover to push into the existing classroom in question on a daily basis to allow increased opportunities for targeted small group instruction in language arts and math. Dr. Sheila Cuxtis has sent a letter, and again, I want to acknowledge that, again, through the dialogue with the parents, that they hadn't been communicated with, but now they have all been communicated with, that the STEP teacher first was going into the classroom during Readers Writers Workshop. The Readers Writers Workshop really lent itself to an additional certified teacher in the classroom. Then the teacher in the classroom, Ms. Turner, asked if the STEP classroom teacher could move into the classroom during math activities. And so both of these identified times during the classroom, during the classroom instruction, 5 times a day, 5 times a week, 5 days a week. The STEP teacher goes in during Readers Writers Workshop and math. So that's twice during each day a certified teacher is in that classroom. The district is committed to identifying and allocating resources to meet the needs of each and every student in the district. If any parent or guardian is concerned with their child's educational progress to the point, again, for some it's remediation, but to Mr. Heavey spoke very eloquently about challenge, we're committed to working directly with the parents and guardians to address their child's individual needs. Additionally, I have directed Ms. Turner and Dr. Cuxtis to send a letter out to all the parents in that second grade, offering them, Ms. Turner agreed to 2 evenings this week, any before school, after school, working around parents' schedules to meet with individual parents to talk about their concerns, how their children's instructional program was being impacted, so one-to-one to meet with the teacher and the principal. Parent-teacher conferences are just around the corner, but we have offered this now so that any parent could come in and sit down with the principal and teacher and go over their child's achievement in an instructional program during the day. During my meeting on February 20th with Ms. Brennick, it was suggested by Ms. Brennick that Ms. Clasby and I meet with the parents in the second grade. When we went back to the leadership team and we began to plan what that meeting would look like, I said if the parents in that second grade have questions around special education services, the parents in all of the schools have questions. So working with the PTO presidents this last week, I've asked each of them to give me an evening date in March or April, and Ms. Clasby and I will do an overview of the district's special education programs, and then take questions from the parents and guardians in the audience, follow-up questions around the programs in the district or the programs particular to that school. So Ms. Clasby and I will be going out to each of our 6 schools and presenting. I've directed Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Personnel, Janet Sheehan, to go into the Glover second grades and to do observations, and Dr. Sheila Cuxtis does daily observations in all of the classrooms at the Glover. She will continue those observations. I've met with Dr. Cuxtis, Ms. Sheehan, and Ms. Turner on several occasions, and we're going to continue to monitor the progress of the students in that classroom. And I believe that these steps, again, the meetings with parents are integral. They're integral for any parent in the district to meet with the classroom teacher, the principal as needed, the curriculum support in the district, reassigning the STEP certified teacher, and Dr. Cuxtis and Ms. Turner putting out the conferences in advance of the parent-teacher conferences. And I want to, again, reiterate that when we went over the internal assessments in language arts and in math, the growth and the achievement in that classroom was equal to again, the growth and the achievement in all of the second grades across the town of Milton. We have that internal data right down to individual students' data, and when parents make appointments in these upcoming conferences, again, one of our most talented veteran teachers said that these internal assessments have really equipped the classroom teachers with a tremendous amount of data that they can discuss with parents when parents, again, make appointments anytime during the school year or during parent-teacher conferences. So that statement is in your packet, and we can post that tomorrow.
Thank
Can
you.
I just ask a favor? Ms. Gorman, could you let Ms. Turner know how much we all appreciate the extra work she's put in, the night meetings, the individual meetings, and let her know
I will.
that?
I
Thank
will,
you.
Ms. Bagley-Jones. Next, I'd like to invite to the table the Cunningham Site Council. Mr. Redden
They left.
and students, parents, and teachers. Glenn, would you show them how to bring the chairs up? Dr. Pavlicek is going to help you bring the chairs up so everyone can join us right up here at the audience.
It's,
You ask one of those kids to go down to our office and give them the key and get me some water.
It's okay. We don't mind. We can see over you.
Yeah, and you need to be able to see up there, so it's okay.
Principal Redden, I'm going to ask you to make introductions of your Cunningham team, some of whom are in the audience. Oh.
Which ones do you mean?
I think I recognize those T-shirts.
Is it hot in here, or is it?
All right, good evening. Thank you for your patience while we set that up. Start the speaker cord. So I'm happy to be here joined with my site council, at least most of my site council. We did have a string of illness that went through, and we're missing a teacher here. But Ms. Atwood, who I'll introduce first, our fourth grade teacher, has agreed to take on some additional points that we're going to cover today. We have Mrs. Graham. We have Ms. Mulligan, our kindergarten teacher. We have Ms. Gordon, our Spanish teacher. We have Mrs. Clancy, who's another parent representative, and we have Mrs. O'Keefe, who is a parent representative at the Cunningham School. And again, missing is Miss Young, who is our second grade teacher, but this is her second year on this site council, so she will definitely be missed today. But she put a lot of work into this presentation that we're about to share with you today. And without further ado, we're going to go over the agenda and speak about the Cunningham School.
So to go over tonight's agenda, to outline, we're going to begin with the Cunningham experience, followed by an overview of the work of our school site council, the 2014 accountability and MCAS data, the data-driven goals, the school improvement plan, and embracing the experience, a special highlight.
So when we put this video together, we really wanted to think about how we can try to capture a lot of the great things that are happening here at Cunningham, both academically, both some of their enrichment programs, and both some of the things that are especially unique to Cunningham School. And that was very, very difficult, and we were editing this video all the way up till today, trying to make sure we didn't miss too much, and it's, again, almost impossible, but this song and the video really highlight sort of, great things that are happening at Cunningham. Students are very happy when they come. You'll hear from students later speak about some of their experience at the Cunningham School, so we hope you enjoy.
That is a hard act to follow. I'll try. We meet as a site council the first Wednesday of every month. We also can you hear me? We also communicate frequently through emails, Google, and when we see each other in the buildings. We focus on data. We focus on the MCAS results and analyze the MCAS results, as well as internal assessments. We also like to focus on sustainable programs such as Saturday school and extended school. One of the things that we've worked on, back up. One of the things that we've worked on is creating a program where the French and English in the first grade have specials together as well as lunch together to kind of start a unification of the programs right off the bat. We also communicate frequently and share ideas. We're a great group.
We had some discussion about whether we want to talk about how we communicate using Google and Google Drive and where our comfort levels are, but that has really been helpful in not only developing this video and this presentation by being able to work with each other despite this amount of school days that we've missed, and our meetings have been canceled as a result, but we were able to communicate, submit photos, submit slides that we wanted to make sure were represented and highlighted today. So we are definitely